Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yasodanana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Kiha Vanachari Yamuna Kiha Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Kiha Vanachari Yamuna Kiha Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishupad Paramahansa Varvadacharya Asadhara Satushi Shriman His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribo Slava Sabrani Bhakti Slava Shri Guru Shri Gaurangi Om Agyana Timanandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobisham Stavitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Vidamayam Vidati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vidham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Vrajana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakham Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabandhu Dagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishubhanu Sudha Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakapa Tubhyasra Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, the appearance of Sri Narada, text numbers 13. No light. Is it plugged in? Tat sarvam na samachakshva. Tat sarvam na samachakshva. Prishto yad iha kinchana. Prishto yad iha kinchana. Manye tvam vishaye vacham. Manye tvam vishaye vacham. Snatam anyatra chandasa. Snatam anyatra chandasa. Tat sarvam na samachakshva. Prishto yad iha kinchanaha. Manye tvam vishaye vacham. Snatam anyatra chandasat. Tatsaram nak samachakshva. Prishto yad iha kinchana. Manye tvam vishaye vacham. Snatam anyatra chandasat.
Tatsarvam naksamachakshva.
Tatsarvam naksamachakshva.
Prishtoya viha kinchana.
Prishtoya viha kinchana.
Manye tvam vishaye vacham.
Manye tvam vishaye vacham.
Snatamanyatra chandasat.
Snatamanyatra chandasat. Ladies.
Tatsarvam naksamachakshva.
Tatsarvam naksamachakshva.
Prishtoyadiha kinchana.
Prishtoyadiha kinchana.
Manye tvam visaye vacham.
Manye tvam vishaye vacham.
Snatam anyatra chandrasa.
Snatam anyatra chandrasa. Tat, that, sarvam, all, naha, unto us, samachakshva, clearly explain, prishta, question, yat iha, there, herein, kinchana, all that, manye, we think, tvam, you, vishaye, in all subjects, vacham, meanings of words, snatam, fully acquainted, anyatra, except, chandasat, portion of the Vedas. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. We know that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects, except some portion of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have just put to you. Please repeat. We know that you are expert in the meaning of all subjects, except some portions of the Vedas, and thus you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have just put to you. Purport. The difference between the Vedas and the Puranas is like that between the Brahmanas and the Parivrajakas. The Brahmanas are meant to administer some fruit of sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. But the Parivrajacharyas, or learned preachers, are meant to disseminate transcendental knowledge to one and all. As such, the Parivrajacharyas are not always expert in pronouncing the Vedic mantras, which are practiced systematically by accent and meter by the Brahmanas who are meant for administrating Vedic rites. Yet, it should not be considered that the Brahmanas are more important than the itinerant preachers. They are one and different simultaneously because they are meant for the same end in different ways. There is no difference between the Vedic mantras and what is explained in the Puranas and Itihasa. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, it is mentioned in the Madhyandina Shruti that all the Vedas, namely the Sama, Atharva, Rig, Yajura, Puranas, Itihasas, Upanishads, etc., are emanations from the breathing of the Supreme Being. The only difference is that the Vedic mantras are mostly begun with pranava, Amkara, and it requires some training to practice the metric pronunciation of the Vedic mantras. But that does not mean that the Srimad Bhagavatam is of less importance than the Vedic mantras. On the contrary, it is the ripened fruit of all the Vedas, as stated before. Besides that, the most perfectly liberated soul, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, is absorbed in the studies of the Bhagavatam, although he is already self-realized. Srila Sutta Goswami is following his footsteps, and therefore his position is not the least less important, because he was not expert in chanting Vedic mantras with metric pronunciation, which depends more on practice than actual realization. Realization is more important than parrot-like chanting. Tat sarvam na samachakshva prishta yadihat kinchana mani tvam vishaye vacham snatam anyatra chandasat. We know that you are expert in the meaning of all the subjects, except some portions of the Vedas. Thus, you can clearly explain the answers to all the questions we have put to you. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Bhaskatyade Siddharane. There are different portions of the Vedas, as mentioned here. One of them is called the Chandras. And as it says in the Bhagavatam at the very beginning, Nigama kalpatra galitam palam sukhamukam drava samyutam pibata bhagavatam alayam ahura ahura bhuvika bhavikaha. O expert and thoughtful men, relish the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the mature, ripened fruit of all the Vedas. This fruit is descended from Shukadeva Goswami, and therefore it has become even more relishable. Nigama kalpa tarar galitambalam sukha mukham drava samyutam pibata bhagavatam. So relish this Bhagavatam until liberation and even after liberation. The Vedas in general are meant to bring us to the platform of liberation from the material concept of life by teaching us mainly three things. submission, inquiry, and service. That everyone is inquisitive, everyone wants about something, and in order to satisfy that inquisitiveness, one has to become submissive. And in order to get the result of submission and inquisitiveness, one has to follow the instructions and render service. Whether it be for spiritual realization or material realization, everyone has to, somehow or another, be interested in something. Modern advertisement is to make everyone interested in something. What does it taste like is the main thing in modern society. What does it feel like and what does it taste like? A little bit, what does it smell like? But that's not very interesting for most people, except for maybe flowers or something. What do they smell like? Or maybe perfume. That's the big thing, perfume. What do I smell like? What does it sound like? So everyone is inquisitive. They buy their record album to find out, what does it sound like? They go to the restaurant, what does it taste like? They touch each other, what do you feel like? What do you smell like? So this is generally on the gross mundane platform, everyone is interested, inquisitive about these things. And on the subtle platform, what does it feel like? In a sense, what kind of mood does it put me into? Therefore, music is very important in modern society, because music, sound can very easily change our mood. And people are very much concerned, what is my mood? How am I feeling? And of course, how am I thinking is rarely the people are on the philosophical platform. How am I seeing things? Of course, people are also interested in that. But generally, how am I seeing things in order to, how that will influence my feeling and smelling and touching and tasting. People are interested in trying to figure out how the world works in order to increase their, generally comes out as eating, sleeping, mating, defending, which includes all the senses and the feelings also. But rarely people are interested in what is the higher perspective beyond smelling, touching, tasting, etc., and even feeling the mental platform. People are generally not inquisitive about that because they don't know that they're eternal souls and that they have another realm of experiencing, tasting and smelling and hearing and etc. But that's only available for one who has pure consciousness, and pure consciousness means we can remain within ignorance that everything has come about by accident. There's nothing behind the material world. Since Krishna is in every atom and between the atoms, therefore no one can have pure consciousness without Krishna. Although everyone wants the kingdom of God, without God, in the material world at least, people want that. It's not possible. Still, the Vedas, Krishna appears as the Vedas in order to teach people how they can gradually surrender to Him by alluring them to different levels of experience in the material world. Advertising that if you surrender to Krishna in this way, by following this Vedic mantra or this Vedic worship, etc., then you get this result, and it's superior sense gratification. Indeed, the more one becomes purified, then the more superior the sense gratification is. The more one becomes uncovered, the more one can experience. So basically this Vedic culture is to teach one progressively higher stages of surrender surrender to Krishna's instructions through inquisitiveness, submission, and service. Combined, they're called surrender. But generally speaking, people don't know that. They don't know what the aim of the Vedas is. Therefore, they think, Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya pariti chetasam, or yamimam pushpitam vacham pravavantya vipasita vedavata rata parata nayam astiti kamana karmatmaka swargapura janma karma pala pradam kriya visheshu bahulam bhogaishvarya kitim prati. Those who are yam imam pushpitam vacham, those who are enamored by the flowery language of the Vedas, they think that the whole aim of the Vedas is fruitive activity, cultivation, going to the heavenly planets, yamimam pushpitam vacham, pravavantya vipaschita, veda vatarata parata. They're called veda vataratas because they're stuck in a certain conception of the Vedas. They don't know the aim of the Vedas. As Krishna says, Vedaischa savaraham eva vedyo, Vedankrita krid vedavid eva chaha. That I'm the knower of the Vedas, I'm the aim of the Vedas. I'm situated in everyone's heart. The aim is Krishna. Yenam veti yomam eva masamudo, janati purushottama sasarvavit bhajantemam, sarva bhavena bharata. That this is the most confidential part of the Vedic knowledge, and whoever knows it will become yomam eva samudo janati purushottama sasarvavit bhajantemam. Whoever knows it will become perfect and is in it's not right. Yomam eva samudo janati purushottama. Whoever knows this, sasarvavit bhajantemam, will worship me, and his endeavors will know perfection. Iti goyatama shastram, idam yuktva mayanaga, etad bhutava buddhimatsyat kritas javarata. That this is the most confidential part of all the Vedic scriptures. Whoever knows this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. In other words, except for knowing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, ultimately everything else will eventually be a waste of time. Although the Vedas encourage following Krishna's instructions, and ultimately all the Vedas begin with Omkara, who is Krishna. In other words, all the Vedic hymns are all meant to satisfy Krishna. But Krishna offers some reward for it, for those who want the rewards, materially speaking. And therefore one may mistake that the Vedas are meant for material rewards other than to approach Krishna. They're called Veda Vataratas. But ultimately, when one follows the Vedas, one will come to the Karma Kanda section, the Jnana Kanda section, the Upanishads, which will direct one to liberation from the material concept of life. But that will take many, many births to achieve that. On the other hand, what will one achieve after many, many births? One will understand that one should surrender to Krishna. The whole purpose of the Vedas is to surrender to Krishna through, what does surrender mean? Through inquisitiveness, submissiveness, and service. Inquisitiveness about what? What does Krishna want me to do? Very simple. How does he want me to do it? Who am I? What is this world? What am I doing here? What is the highest benefit for myself and everyone else? That's called inquisitiveness. And one has to learn that through hearing from Krishna and his representatives. Representative of Krishna means one who repeats the same knowledge that Krishna spoke. Then one can learn, in truth, what to do in order to realize what Krishna is talking about. To realize Krishna and therefore become full of bliss, full of consciousness, unlimited consciousness, eternally. Otherwise, the Vedas promise many things, but generally they promise an enhanced eating, sleeping, mating, defending. an enhanced uncovering of one's senses so that the material nature becomes more enjoyable. It'll never become actually enjoyable, but more than it is now. Because actually what's enjoyable is when the senses are uncovered, and therefore one is not afflicted by material desire. At the same time, one can see the reality of the material energy, which is not different from Krishna, at least simultaneously not different from Krishna, simultaneously one and different from Krishna. And so the material nature is actually quite attractive, because it's the same, it's come from Krishna, it's spiritual. But it's not Krishna. And therefore, without a relation with Krishna, it's still material energy. And the most one can get is liberation from it. So, Shukadeva Goswami was a self-realized personality. That is, he carried Krishna within his heart. And because he understood Krishna, he carried Krishna within his heart, along with Krishna's name, his forms, his quality, his pastimes, his associates, because he was absorbed in Krishna consciousness, as the Bhagavatam reveals to us. Only one who is completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness could have spoken the Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, it would not be possible. So he not only spoke what he had heard from his father, Vyasadeva, but he also experienced by his own service and realization, by his own mood of surrender, he experienced even more than what his father had told him. His Bhagavatam is a living, Krishna's pastimes are living, and they're experienced in different devotees in different ways. Therefore, he was able to repeat the message of the Bhagavatam with realization. And therefore, Parikshit Maharaj was also situated in the spiritual world by hearing it, submissively, inquisitively. And he was ready to, in that way, that by hearing, Parikshit Maharaj became perfect. And by speaking, Shukadeva Goswami advanced his perfection. So that remains the same for us. Now we may be attracted to the Vedas, because the Vedas will promise so many things. Of course, Bhagavatam also starts promising things, otherwise people wouldn't read the Bhagavatam. So at the end of the story, like the end of Vritrasura being killed by Indra, it says that anyone who reads this will kill his enemies, will know, etc. So the devotees become, thinking, wow, this is great. Let me list down my enemies and I'll read the whole chapter again. See how many of them disappear. It's not meant for the devotees. It's meant for people who are not devotees. Give them faith and confidence that actually they're not wasting their time reading about Vritrasura. It's not just like some fairy tale that they can read. It actually has a practical benefit for those who want such a benefit. On the other hand, the devotees, their only benefit is we learn from Vritrasura how exalted a devotee is in any circumstance. And how Indra, although under the guidance of Brihaspati, a perfect knower of the Vedas, was less fortunate. Because although he could stay in the post of Indra, which is quite an exalted post, we can't imagine drinking samarasa. And feeling like you're 20 years old for thousands and millions of years. Having a garden like the Nanda Kandana forest, filled with wonderful flowers, birds chirping, pure water, and apsaras. We can, and you're there for, practically from our point of view, unlimited time, which also goes quite quickly, but here time also is relative. Here, if we're suffering, Time goes very, very slowly. Sit down on a dentist chair without any kind of Novocaine, without any kind of anesthesia, and just listen to the drill. And when the drill touches your tooth, how long does it take? One moment seems like 12 years or more. And literally tears are flowing from our eyes like torrents of rain. On the other hand, if we're enjoying, then time goes very, very quickly. How long did it take us? How long did we sleep last night? When there's no pain, we go to sleep and wake up, it's like there was no time. We don't think, wow, that was 6 hours, that was a long 6 hours. So we don't even know that it went through. It's so quick. Why? Because we're not in pain. We're in Brahman, we're almost in Brahman. We're almost liberated when we're sleeping. And it goes really quick. We wake up and then we're back in the material world again, in our material concepts of life, and time goes slow. Prasadam a little quicker. Every bite seems like it went as fast as the, well, whatever, I don't know, it's fast, very fast. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami, his valuable information about how we can actually get out of the material concept of life, but beyond that, because the Vedas will also teach us, because it may take us many millions of lifetimes to get out of the material concept of life. But this will teach us very quickly how to get out of the material concept of life and obtain a much higher state of consciousness than liberation, pure Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we read the Bhagavatam every morning. We're not reading the Samaveda or the Tarva Veda, the Yajur Veda. We're reading the Bhagavatam every day. And if we're a little inquisitive and we're a little submissive to what we're supposed to do, then we can pick up what's being described here and apply it within our life. That Shukadeva Goswami was a self-realized person. He was not interested in chanting the Vedas perfectly. Because that's not an excuse for us to chant Shnik Shnik Ram Ram Day 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 Day. Because if we're actually calling out for Radha and Krishna, then we'll chant Radha and Krishna, Hare Krishna. We won't chant Shnik Shnik Ram Ram. If you see your mother, you don't say, hey, Maya. You pronounce the name out of love, hopefully. So we actually love someone. Even the pronunciation is not perfect, but the beloved will appreciate it very much. So similarly, we want to at least chant the Hare Krishna mantra, was using the tongue and the lips and the teeth to chant properly the Hare Krishna mantra, calling out to Srimati Radharani and Krishna lovingly, not just to engage us in their service. There's plenty of service. Just if you want to get engaged in service, just ask Ananta or someone else. They'll tell you what to do. How to engage in loving service, maybe Ananta can tell you also, but that all the devotees can tell us, according to their realization, how to engage in loving service. Specifically service, we have to find out what's the authorized, what am I supposed to do, what's authorized. As far as loving service, that we can learn from the devotees by their realization, how they've experienced Krishna according to how much love they put into their service. So Shukadeva Goswami was fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and therefore he explains the whole science of how to develop love for Krishna and what service to Krishna means. By devotional service, what devotional service means. So there are so many things that are going on, but we should know that the aim is become a pure devotee of Krishna. We're not just trying to, we're not just trying to distribute books. We're not just trying to, maintain the temple. We're trying to create pure devotees. That's the whole idea of what we're doing. And if we distribute billions of books, and we have huge temples all over the universe, and there are no pure devotees, then we've missed the point. And if we have one pure devotee, then this movement is successful. Then it accomplishes what it was supposed to do. And similarly within our life, we may be doing so many different things, but if we're not becoming a pure devotee, then we're wasting our time. And we may not be doing so much, but if we do it in such ways we become a pure devotee, then everything what we're doing is successful. So we shouldn't miss out on the essence of what we're trying to achieve. Otherwise, we'll get deviated by so many other conceptions of what we think we're trying to do. We're not after position. We're not after wealth. We're not after prestige. We're after becoming a pure devotee of Krishna. And for that, submission, service, and inquiry, according to the direction of a person like Shukadeva Goswami, who's explained everything in the Bhagavatam, and has given us examples of our gurus in the Bhagavatam, those we should follow, and has given us a vision so we can know who our gurus are now, so we can follow them. So we accept an initiating guru within our society, then the guru is supposed to help us enter into the mysteries of Krishna's understanding through the pages of the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other such literature. So he's supposed to assist us in discovering our gurus, discovering our nature, discovering things by the process of submission, service, and inquiries to the words of the Bhagavatam. None of us have anything above the Bhagavatam to offer. All we can do is try to offer the Bhagavatam according to our capacity to do so. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Yes.
Thank you for inspiring lecture. I just wanted to ask for some advices when it so happens that we are inquisitive about some material things, like you mentioned that everyone are inquisitive about how does it taste, how does it feel. So how in this case can we redirect this inquisitiveness away from this to devotional service? How to redirect this inquisitiveness?
Well, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Rasoham apsnu kandiya, that I'm the taste in water. So we're not against tasting, but we shouldn't forget that the taste is Krishna. We're not against sound, but we should hear Krishna. The whole world, as Prabhupada writes in the Krishna book, the whole world is full of Krishna singing. But everyone is interpreting it in a different way, that's all. So we want to understand how it's related to Krishna, how it's not, this sound is coming from Krishna. Everyone is dancing with Krishna, but those who are dancing, imitating Krishna, they're dancing with Maya. And those who are dancing, serving Krishna, they're dancing in the rasa dance. So we should see how, add Krishna to whatever we're doing, whatever we're experiencing, we should add Krishna to it. We should see it in relation to Krishna. Then it becomes spiritualized. Therefore, Prabhupada said that even the scientists, they should teach people how, they should, by science, they should show how everything and everyone is related, and everything is related to Krishna. That's the perfection of science. There's nothing outside of Krishna consciousness, except for people's imagination. Anything else? Yes.
Just a follow-up. How do you engage, for example, education, which is demoniac education in Krishna consciousness?
Demoniac education. how do you engage demoniac education in Krishna consciousness? What do you mean by what is demoniac education that you're referring to?
Science.
Well, science is not necessarily demoniac. Science can also be devotional. Science is... What's that?
The way it's taught in school is... Yeah.
How to engage it? You defeat it. You prove it wrong. Or as Prabhupada would say that in the Vedas, sometimes Prabhupada would point out there are 8,400,000 species of life, so there is a kind of evolution of consciousness. So you show how there is evolution, but it's not the evolution of bodies, it's the evolution of consciousness. So you may show it from a different point of view. But generally our devotees, when they're talking about Darwinian evolution, for instance, there is no theory to defeat, because they never came up with a theory. Because the theory means that you have to have a theory, then you have to have an experiment, then you have to have an observation, then you have to, based on your observation, see if it supports the theory. But they haven't figured out what the theory is yet, because they don't have they don't have the observation to support any theory that they've come up with. They say everything evolved, but then they don't have any. If everything evolved, then they don't have the missing links. They don't have one species evolving into the next. In the layers of the earth, they have very separate forms. There's no evolution gradually from one to the next. Nor can they explain, for instance, how an eye evolved that it could see. So Darwinian evolution doesn't have any theory that would actually hold up to observation. Therefore, they come up with different things like punctuated, the idea that everything appeared at once, but then if everything appeared at once, why does more things appear at once? I mean, it's so... Generally speaking, demoniac philosophy and education is self-defeating. Therefore, the students have to go there and take intoxication and run after the opposite sex, or the same sex, whatever they do. Because they don't learn anything. There's nothing applicable. Maybe they can learn some, if you get into applied science, maybe there's something that you could apply. You put, this A side of the magnet next to the B magnet, it attracts each other, and therefore you learn something practical. But that's not demoniac, that's just reality. Demoniac means that there's no relationship to God, and there's no relationship to reality either. Anything practical. Of course, the demons, they have their education. They build they build fabulous spaceships. They have all the technology, etc. Maya Danava has fantastic abilities in this world, mystic powers. But there's no Krishna there. So how do you defeat that? You add Krishna. Arjuna befriended Mayadanava, and Mayadanava built a sabha for the Pandavas. So he utilized Mayadanava's abilities in his Krishna service. So you utilize what the demons can create and dovetail it in Krishna service. So Prabhupada said we're using the typewriter, we're using the dictaphone, we're using so many things that the demons are creating, and we're utilizing them in Krishna service. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Muchate. And even the demons get benefited somehow. Anything else? Yes.
I just want to understand if I understand right. In Goloka Vrindavan, the souls who are there, they don't know who is God.
Of course they know who God is. How could they not know? They think Narayan is God. Nanda Maharaj is the deity of Lord Narayan, and he thinks he's God. Therefore, when Mother Yasoda follows Krishna when he's about to go into the forest, and she is afraid that Krishna might get hurt, she tells Krishna, don't be afraid, when you go into the forest, if something happens to you, think of Lord Narayan, he'll protect you. And Krishna gives a little smile. So they think Narayan's God. They're not wrong. They just don't realize that Krishna is the source of Narayan, that's all. They don't have to. Narayan will protect Krishna. Don't worry.
So why they don't know that Krishna is?
Because they're so much in love with Krishna. They're in love with Krishna. And Krishna acts as a little coward boy. He doesn't act like God, generally speaking. They forget. It would interfere with their loving feelings towards Krishna, so Yogamaya doesn't allow it. They diminish their service to Krishna. Because the aim, Krishna's aim and everyone's aim is ultimately love, not knowledge. If you had a girlfriend, you don't spend your whole life trying to figure out, can you tell me everything about yourself? It's not the primary goal of the relationship. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. My question is, how can we get a taste for reading the Bhagavatam?
Well, there's 9 processes of devotional service, of which hearing and chanting are the most important, and remembering. So we read with care and attention. Care and attention, to find out if we're reading with care and attention, read one paragraph from the Bhagavatam, close the page, and see if you can remember what you read. If we can't remember what we read, we didn't really read very carefully with very much attention. So then open up the Bhagavatam again and read it again. Close it, and now see how much you can remember. And if eventually you can remember something, then see what you actually see, what it actually applies within your life. What applies in what you're actually seeing from the Bhagavatam. What is it revealing to you? And if it reveals something, then you make it a business to apply that, whatever you've realized, whatever you understood in your life, and see if it doesn't improve your life. And if it improves your life, then you come back, you read another paragraph, and see if you can't read it more easily, with more appreciation, more attentiveness, and then close the book and see how much you remember, and go through the process. Okay? Yeah.
Prabhupada said that, or just yesterday I listened to one lecture and he said 2 to 3 hours read Bhagavatam per day. It will be this very good. But according to this question and answer, if you don't remember so much, so is then good to read so much or not? Or
well, it'll probably keep you from doing other activities which are probably less desirable. But if you eat this much, probably gave the example of the elephant. The elephant eats this much food and it passes this much stool. Same amount. So what is the benefit? At the time of death, the Yamadus come and say, what have you done? I read so many books. What do you remember? Nothing. What is the value? Better to read a little bit and remember it than read a whole lot. Of course, reading a whole lot, I mean, the idea is, just like we chant one round, sometimes people do. I'm always chanting with my mind. I don't have to chant 16 rounds. Well, first of all, I wouldn't believe that people who don't chant 16 rounds are always chanting within their mind. They can't even chant 16 rounds on japa beads, which is easier than chanting in your mind. But we find, generally speaking, if we make any effort at all to chant, then gradually the chanting gets easier as we go on. So when we're reading, at first it may be difficult to pay attention, but if we keep on reading for 3 hours, eventually we might think, well, maybe I should find out what's in this book that I'm reading. Maybe I should pay a little attention. So The idea is we do read for a long time. Generally speaking, most people will actually develop some attentiveness in their reading. And they'll remember something. But it's no guarantee. Still, after 3 hours, we should close the book and see how much we remembered. And we haven't remembered anything. Then we have to improve our reading for 3 hours too. We haven't understood anything that we can apply within our lives. Then we've been in some other place when we're reading. We're not in the Bhagavatam. We're in some other place while we're reading for 3 hours. Our mind's in some other place. Hwala Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande. We're supposed to be. I think we're supposed to be. I have one on Sunday.